The Kodan are one of the most iconic races in Guild Wars 2 that have played a major part in multiple different maps throughout Tyria and story missions throughout the entirety of the Guild Wars 2 story. With so much lore and story connected to these intelligent, bear-like creatures, there is a lot of interesting Kodan characters that we can find, both with the traditional Shiverpeaks Kodan found throughout the original Guild Wars 2 experience and in many post-release updates like the Icebrood Saga, but also with the Lowland Kodan located around the Janthir Isles and River Delta that were introduced with the Janthir Wilds expansion. Today, I want to take some time to honor this race that so often honor the well of their god, Koda, and highlight my top 10 personal favorite Kodan found throughout all of Guild Wars 2. Really quickly, I want to mention that I worked on this video before the Visions of Eternity expansion released, so if there happens to be a super cool new Kodan in that expansion, honorable shout out to them. Let's get started. And the number 10 spot is Carping Gaze. This is a Lowland Kodan in the Lowland Shore at Harvest Inn that I have a feeling not many people really know about this character, and I haven't seen this character too often, because he only appears during the day 20 minutes after the top of the hour, meaning that he is only in Harvest Inn for a very short time period. So if you're just a player who runs through here randomly to go from one place to another and doesn't spend a lot of time in Harvest Inn, or doesn't spend a lot of time specifically looking at some of the ambient dialogue around here, you will have missed this character. But this character's entire purpose, once he spawns 20 minutes after the hour, is to come from the first door to the east of the Bonfire Lodge and just walk over to Stoic Alder's house, judge it, and then walk back to his house where he despawns. Where at Stoic Alder's house he says things like typical, no seasonal decor, small firewood pile, you'd think with Poised Arrow living here. Meager garden offerings too. Porches unswept, filthy. Ugh, tundra take me. Fences unfinished too, embarrassing this is as his neighbor. Maybe he'll sort it out if I craft him a nice gate. A potted tree? In such a small vase? Dark sorcery this must be. What has this village come to? Where he's just that one neighbor that is always getting in other people's business and is always just being so incredibly judgmental. And he serves no other purpose in the game other than to do that. In the number 9 spot is Eagle Flight. This is a Shiverpeaks Kodan located in the Bitterfrost Frontier at the Griffin Old Growth, and this is the Kodan that is hanging out with Wumala, where this Kodan doesn't serve too many purposes in the game but does help defend the Griffins around here in the Griffin Old Growth. And Wumala is a Quaggan that I like a lot, and I've always associated Wumala with Eagle Flight because we have the Quaggans and the Kodan in this map working together in order to protect each other within the Bitterfrost Frontier, and we have this Quaggan and this Kodan that are coming out into the Old Growth in order to defend the Griffins as well from the Icebrood and other threats. And I've always just found their mission incredibly noble, and I think Eagle Flight is just a really fun character just because they are taking time to come out away from the safety of their little sanctuary and to come into this little bit of a spooky forest and just defend creatures that need help being defended. We're also like the name Eagle Flight, as this is a character that is specifically focused on helping the snow griffins, which are kind of like eagles. And then number 8 spot is Poised Arrow. This is a Lowland Kodan who is the son of Stoic Alder and the late Selkin Weir, who plays a pretty important part in the Janthir Wilds story. And I've always liked this character a decent amount since I've first played through the Janthir Wilds story, where he's really interesting because Stoic Alder is his father and is the current claw of the Lowland Kodan, but he is expected to succeed his father's position as the claw of the Lowland Kodan one day, whether it be when Stoic Alder retires or passes away, where you get to experience a lot of background history and developing stories related to Poised Arrow as you progress through the Janthir Wilds story. And I really appreciate this character just because we kind of see him grow throughout the duration of the Janthir Wilds story, where he is a relatively young Kodan and you see him mature a little bit more throughout the entirety of the story as he experiences everything that happens throughout the story. In the number 7 spot is Bright Shore. This is a Shiverpeaks Kodan who can be found in the aberrant forest of the Biora Marches. And this is a character that I highlighted a long time ago on my channel in a video because he is just incredibly interesting and is connected to the Bone Skinner story, where this is a Kodan who is starving and can be found at the ruined hut inside the aberrant forest and is being driven mad by whispering voices, the voices of Jormak or Drakar or some other minion, where the voices are telling him to kill and eat where it's driving him closer and closer to madness as he begins to develop a hunger for flesh, where the Bone Skinners are just incredibly interesting and honestly incredibly horrifying creatures that we learn a little bit about in the Iceroot Saga and also in the Secrets of the Obscure expansion. And I always find this entire story beat in Guild Wars 2 incredibly interesting just because of how harrowing it is, where we see Brightshore potentially beginning to transform into a Bone Skinner, but you can help him out a little bit and complete a collection that takes you around the BR marches. And I just remember completing this collection way back when this map originally came into the game. In the number 6 spot is Deft Lahar. This is another Lowland Kodan who is a member of the Lowland Kodan Council and is the Homestead Master, where you interact with this individual in the Janthir Wilds story, where you get your homestead, which is always a fun experience, and inside of your homestead of Hearth's Glow, and presumably, I'm assuming this is the case in the new homestead that we just got with the new expansion, where he's the primary point person in learning how to do things in your homestead and is an important NPC and merchant to interact with if you're doing different homestead stuff. But he can also be found during the different festivals around Tyria and can be found wherever the festival is specifically being located. Like with the Shadow of the Mad King festival, he can be found in the Lion's Arch. And I really like how he travels around the world of Tyria to sell different festival related decorations that you can learn and then craft for your own homestead. And I also want to point out how during the Super Adventure Box festival, you can find him in Radissoon, but you can also find him inside of the Super Adventure Box, and he is the grizzly bear model that you can find within the Super Adventure Box, which I think is just an incredible touch. In the number 5 spot are Flowering Meadow and Winter Sky. These are two Kodan who are deeply connected to one another, where there is an entire side story called the Star-Crossed Lovers that you can do in the Janthir Wilds expansion, where Flowering Meadow is a Lowland Kodan that you can find in the Harvest Inn, and you basically start this entire story with her. Where then Winter Sky is a Shiverpeaks Kodan who can be found in the Frostgorge Sound. And throughout this collection, you work to reunite these two, and eventually Winter Sky will move to Harvest Inn and be one of the, if not the only, Shiverpeaks Kodan found within Harvest Inn. And I really like this side story, and I really enjoy all the Janthir Wild side stories, and if you haven't done them, you definitely should. And this one in particular, you definitely should, because it is pretty quick and easy to complete and gives you 10 achievement points and a mastery point. And the entire story that's going on here is really fun as well. In the number 4 spot are the Ashmakers. This is a very generic idea for the Kodan, but these are Lowland Kodan that you can find throughout the Lowland Shore, where in the lore of the game there are a lot of Ashmakers, and in Lowland Shore specifically you can find 2 of them, and then you can also consider Stoic Alder serving as an Ashmaker during the Mount Balrior convergence. But in Autumn's Vale and in Harvest Inn you can find 2 different Ashmakers who are sitting around a fire, and you can sit at the fire with a bunch of other Kodan and just listen to the Ashmaker tell a different story, where this is just ambient dialogue that you can stumble upon around the map. And I really love stumbling upon it and listening to the Ashmakers tell their story, where the entire theme and vibes and idea of the Ashmakers is incredible, just because they are Kodan who are telling stories and just sharing the history of the Kodan and tales related to the Kodan, which I always think is an important part of culture. And playing through Guild Wars 2, it is fun to just learn a little bit of the lore and story of the world that you are going through. And the number 3 spot is Sparking Stone. This is a Shiverpeaks Kodan who is available during festivals, very similar to Deft Lahar, but this is the original character, where this might be one of the most interacted with Kodan in the entire game, as he shows up at every single one of the festivals and sells different festival related weapon skins that are different depending on what festival he is currently at, where he travels to the different areas where the festivals are located, such as in Lion's Arch during the Shadow of the Mad King festival. And with the introduction of Deft Lahar into the game, Deft Lahar hangs out near Sparking Stone. And very similar to Deft Lahar in the Super Adventure Box, we see him out in Radissoon, but we can also find him inside of the Super Adventure Box, where he is digitalized as a polar bear, similar to how Deft Lahar is a grizzly bear inside of the Super Adventure Box, which I think is an incredible touch. But Sparking Stone did it first, and Deft Lahar followed. In the number 2 spot is Stoic Alder. This is the Kodan Claw that we have been talking about a couple of times throughout this video, who is just an incredible Kodan, who is the leader of the Lowland Kodan and a member of the Lowland Kodan Council, is the father of Poised Arrow, and has a house that maybe should have a little bit of work done on. Where he's just an incredible personality that you can interact throughout the Janthir Wilds story, where he is careful but friendly, where he is stern but loving, and is somebody who has experienced so many bad things in his life but still works in order to build towards a better future. Whereas he is the leader of the Lowland Kodan, he is an important person related to the Tyrian Alliance, and we have interacted with him a lot throughout the Janthir Wilds story, and presumably in the future we will continue to see Stoic Alder playing a part here and there throughout different Guild Wars 2 expansions, as we presumably continue interacting with the Tyrian Alliance. And I really do hope we continue interacting with Stoic Alder, just because he is an incredible personality and a really big part of the Janthir Wilds expansion that was a highlight of the expansion for me. But now for the number one spot, for my favorite Kodan in all of Guild Wars 2, and it just has to go to Barbed Vale. I love this Kodan so much. Where this is another member of the Lowland Kodan Council, who are pretty important Kodan that we have interacted with throughout the Janthir Wilds expansion, and Barbed Vale is the Spear Master and is just an incredibly powerful and strong character. Where we see her playing a part in the Janthir Wilds story in Act 1 and also in the God Spawn release with Mount Balrior. In the Janthir Century, she also plays the most important part in the entire meta event, where you stop Decima and Greer from draining the Bloodstone, and you listen to her voice in relation to that massive meta event, which anyone who has played through the Janthir Wilds story has probably played through this meta event and has listened to Barbed Vale. And anyone who has played through the Janthir Wilds story has also probably interacted with this character in the story itself, especially in Act 1 with Unknown Territory and Missing in Action. But my favorite part about Barbed Vale has to be in the Lowland Shore, where we have the entire Harvest Den task that I love a lot, and we have the Sleuth Brawl Fields with the massive arena that happens here, where there are 6 different events where you complete a couple of different challenges and fight a few different bosses, but the final boss is Barbed Vale, where you can take battle to the Spearmaster herself as a group and try to strike her down, but she really does prove her mettle, where she is so incredibly strong and powerful and insane, where this entire event is just absolutely bonkers insane, where the Lowland Kodan are shown as a loving and peaceful group of Kodan that are just trying to live their lives in the Lowland Shore and defend themselves against any threats and just eat honey and whatnot. But we cannot forget that many of the Lowland Kodan are incredibly strong and can hold their own in combat, where Barbed Vale proves this most of all out of all of the Kodan, where every 25% she will randomly grab a member of the group that is fighting her and will place them in a chokehold, where you have to then break Barbed Vale's break bar in order to free whichever person was put in a chokehold. But if you don't break her break bar, she will grab the person that she has in a chokehold, swing them up into the sky, and then slam them down into the ground, just crushing their skull and instantly killing them while screaming, "Welcome to Harvest Den." And that's just so cool. I love that so much. Where my first time experiencing this, I was actually freaking out because of how insane this entire event is, and I still love coming through here every now and then and just watching her absolutely annihilate a random person, sometimes me, while screaming "Welcome to Harvest Den." And this has just cemented herself as my favorite Kodan in all of Guild Wars 2. And that's my list. I hope you enjoyed. There are a lot of Kodan throughout Guild Wars 2, many from the Shiverpeaks Mountains and many from the Lowland Shore, and I would love to hear who your favorite Kodan is down in the comments. And maybe with the Visions of Eternity expansion we got a new Kodan, so shout out to them, and hopefully in the future we will continue to see new Kodan added to the game or pre-existing Kodan expanded upon more. I hope you all are taking great care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.